What's going on, everybody? Hope you all are doing well this morning. It's Josh. I'm going to do a little main slate breakdown. Um, going to give you a brief intro to this sheet. I know that every time I'm streaming, it seems like I'm coming up with some new sheet, and that's cool, man. It's fine. You got to always mess around, evolve your thinking, try to get better. So this one here, I'm combining um, lots of different metrics, some traditional, some not so traditional, and I try to merge it all together into one easy to understand package. So I'll give you a brief intro into the sheet, then I'll jump into some one offs, we'll look at some overall one offs, positional I guess not necessarily one-offs in the positional part, but the best guys at certain positions according to my model. Then try to look at some stacks, and finally some starting pitchers to use. Um, as always, it's always possible that I get a little 3-year-old barging in. Last night we had a fun party, a late night. So my 7-year-old, he's over at the in-laws still, hanging out with grandma and grandpa, aunts and uncles. Wife and I came home with the little guy, and so we're kind of just chilling, waiting for the rest of the family to get themselves situated so we can have a Saturday outing. But for now, I'm just playing around on Google Sheets, and yeah, without further ado, I'm going to jump right in. So the sheet, as always, I've got my data tabs here, just pulling a whole bunch of data from Fangraphs and looking at things on a season-long time frame. Would I like to zoom in more? Yeah, sure, but I feel more comfortable with season long, larger sample sized, uh, larger sample sizes. So this is season long, and everything you see here is percentile rank. Um, Doing percentile rank just allows me to compare um, everything more cleanly, and it allows me to make my final rating more easily. So everything is percentile rank. Everything here is from the perspective of the batter. So if you see green, it's good for the batter. Okay. Um, Specifically, I want to look at K percentage, K rate. Like at the top there, Mike Trout, 77%. Okay. Um, that means that he doesn't strike out a ton. Okay. But then down here you see Miguel Sano, 17%. He does strike out a ton, so it's red. On the other hand, you have the pitchers, same deal. Ross Detweiler, he does not strike out a lot of batters, 87th percentile. But Dylan Bundy um, does, 21st percentile. So that I just wanted to state, everything in green is good for the batter, everything in red is bad for the batter. Another thing to keep in mind is that I don't even know what I was going to say. Shoot. Oh, right. This is all splits. These are all splits. Okay? So, for example, if we sort by pitcher, you can see that Aaron Nola, he has what I'll get to in a minute, a weighted average of 35%. against righties and a weighted average of 42% against lefties. So he's slightly worse against lefties, not really surprising as a right-handed pitcher, but he's still a below average target at 42 and 35%. So you're not really looking to target Aaron Nola because he is below the mark. He's red for weighted average. Again, red is bad for hitters in all respects on this spreadsheet. So if I'm looking for a pitcher, I just would sort the pitcher column, weighted average, and just look for really low numbers. Okay, so that is that. What we have here on the batter side is we have percentile rank of plate appearances against the handedness of the pitcher. So Mookie Betts, Paul Goldschmidt, John VR, Marcus Semien, Charlie Blackmon, Ronald Acuna, those guys are all 100 percentile in plate appearances against the handedness of the pitcher they're facing. I don't care about what the actual number is. I just know that they have a bunch of plate appearances, and whatever I see in the data columns to follow, I can feel really good about because I know that it's in a large sample size. On the other hand, you have total batters faced. So same deal. It's kind of like plate appearances for pitchers. Madison Bumgarner, he is in the 100th percentile. Matthew Boyd, 100th percentile against right-handed batters. So you know that whatever you're seeing in the columns that follow, there's a pretty good chance that, what you're looking at, you can really lean heavily on, again, because the sample size is big, because they faced a lot of batters. K rate, pretty straightforward. However, no, Andrelton Simmons does not strike out 97% of the time. He's in the 97th percentile. He strikes out less than 97% of the sample against right-handed pitchers. On the other hand, if we sort it ascending, Keon Broxton, 5th percentile, no, he does not strike out 5% of the time against right-handed pitchers. He is in the 5th percentile, meaning 95% of batters in the sample strike out more than or less than him against righties. He strikes out more than 95% of batters against right-handed pitchers. And then on the other side, the K rate, Ross Detweiler, 87%. That's not good. That means that he is worse than 87% of pitchers at striking out right-handed batters. So high K rate for pitchers means they don't strike anyone out. High K rate for batters means they don't strike out. And these, again, are handedness splits. Home run rate, home runs per plate appearance. Adam Duvall, so far, 100th percentile, home run per plate appearance against right-handed pitchers. However, you can see that right to the left of it is an 11th percentile plate appearance against righties and a 10th percentile K rate against righties, meaning he strikes out a ton against righties, even if it's a small sample. And, again, it's a small sample. 89% of batters have more plate appearances against righties than he does. So everything you're seeing here, is he hot as hell right now? Absolutely. But, it's eventually going to stop because you can't go on forever like this, in Mike Trout territory when you're Adam Duvall. Is he a good hitter? Yeah, sure, but ride it till the train breaks down. But that's why I have plate appearances there, so that you can have context as to um, you know, what the sample is for the data. ISO is ISO. There's, really nothing major there. Again, you know what it is, isolated power. Adam Duvall, 99th percentile. Sort that there. Mike Trout, Cody Bellinger, Phillip Ervin, Matt Thaiss, 99, 98th percentile ISO against the handedness of the pitcher they're facing. On the other hand, you have ISO here. Adam Plutko, 87. Ross Detweiler, 87. Adrian Sampson, 85. Dylan Bundy, 84, etc. These are guys who give up a lot of power. You know, again, that the green is good for the batter, not good for the pitcher. WOBA, same deal as ISO. And then we get to weighted HD, weighted LN, WHD, WLN. So all that is weighted hard and weighted line. And when I was streaming yesterday, I was messing around with some little formulas for coming up with a hard and I guess, what is it, solid or quality or something, I don't know. So I'm defining two types of hits. Obviously, there's more than two types of hits, but I'm defining two types of hits. Hard is fly ball rate plus hard minus soft. I'm looking at the difference between hard hit rate and soft hit rate, and then I am adding in fly balls. So what that tells me is that this batter, against the handedness of the pitcher he's facing, is able to hit the ball hard and in the air and minimize soft contact. So Mitch Garver, Adam Duvall, Cavan Biggio, Mike Trout, Nelson Cruz, Stephen Vogt, all in the 98th percentile. And on the other hand, these pitchers are not good at keeping batters from hitting the ball hard in the air and forcing soft contact. So Brian Johnson leads the way, 95th percentile. However, keep in mind that he's done that in a 29th percentile total batters faced. So he hasn't faced a lot of batters. So you got to give him a little benefit of the doubt here. But then Chad Green, I don't know why it's red. I don't know, I have to check that. But Chad Green has given up a 94th percentile weighted hard against 73rd percentile total batters faced. That's good. That's good. We can feel really good about Mitch Moreland, Andrew Benintendi, Rafael Devers, Jackie Bradley Jr. in this matchup as lefties facing Chad Green, because we know that all of them have solid samples. Mitch Moreland is only 53rd percent, but that's not that low. And we know who Mitch Moreland is. It's not like he's a rookie call-up. And they're facing Chad Green, so there's a lot of data between the batters and the handedness of the pitcher and the pitcher and the handedness of the batters. So we know that, yes, Chad Green, has a solid ability to strike batters out, minimizes home runs somewhat. Oh, here comes the boy. What's up, buddy? Yeah, we'll go outside in a few minutes, okay? Please. Yeah, go tell Mommy. Mommy can take you outside.
No, Mommy said no.
Mommy said no?
Yeah.
All right, well, how about you let Daddy be a nerd for like 10 more minutes, and then we'll go outside. Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll be there in a little bit. I love you.
No, I want to stay there.
You don't want me to say that?
No.
Why?
Because I don't.
Why not?
Because I don't.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm going to finish recording this video and then we'll go outside, okay? I love you.
No.
Why?
Because I don't. I don't. I don't.
You look like you need a nap.
No, I don't.
Okay. You want to jump on the bed?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to keep recording this video, okay, baby? All right. Back to what we're doing. So, yeah, weighted hard is, in short, the batter's ability to hit the ball hard and in the air, and weighted hard for the pitcher is kind of the opposite, is the pitcher can't stop anyone from hitting the ball hard and in the air. And then weighted line, WLN, is the batter's ability to hit line drives and for high contact and minimizing strikeouts. So we don't want to really penalize opposing batters too much if they are not just like crushing fly balls 400 feet. Okay. Would it be ideal if everyone on our DFS lineup did that? Absolutely. However, it's not possible all the time to get those kinds of batters in good spots. So you can also target batters who can stroke gappers, avoid striking out, give you a high floor. And I think that the weighted line indicates that, the high floor and the ability to, hit for contact, minimize strikeouts, hit line drives. And I think that's one of the key points is the line drives because, yeah, it's nice when a batter doesn't strike out a lot. It's nice when a batter doesn't hit, it's nice when they hit for high contact. However, we don't want them just hitting ground balls. We want line drives. So that's weighted line. And then, as you probably guessed, for the pitcher side, the pitcher gives up a lot of contact, doesn't strike guys out a lot, and gives up a lot of line drives. Okay? So basically, what we want to do is we want to take all of those and we want to average them together into like a weighted average, like a score. And that's what I have here, is these three columns here. For the batter side, weighted average is when you factor in the K rate, the home runs, the ISO, the WOBA, the weighted hard, the weighted line, you average them all together and you get a weighted average score. And so if we sort that column here, number one today is Cody Bellinger, 95%. Mike Trout, 94. Freddie Freeman, Altuve, 90 and 90 respectively. Josh Bell, Alex Bregman, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm excited that it returns guys that I would expect to see at the top here. So that's weighted average. And then for the pitcher side, weighted average is, as you know by now, I've said it several times, the higher, the better for the batter. So Adrian Sampson, righty on righty, that's the worst matchup. Now, he is facing the Tigers. Just looking at the weighted average side for the Tigers, he's facing, at best, Brandon Dixon and Jacoby Jones, 63, 61 weighted averages, respectively. And then Miguel Cabrera, Jordy Mercer, Jake Rogers bring up the rear there. So, that might be like an avoid matchup. I might avoid Adrian Sampson as, you have to expect certain people, might try to target the Tigers. I'm not really that crazy about it, to be honest with you. He doesn't do anything good at all against righties. Now, you could perhaps target Tigers bats and use them against him because he is not that good. But, it's the Tigers. Like, they don't have massive upside, and you just got to tread lightly. So that's that. And then the final rating on the right side here, that is just simply weighted average of the batter and weighted average of the pitcher averaged together. And when you combine those two, I look at it as kind of just a matchup rating. So the number one guy for today is Mike Trout. Well, I guess Trout and Bellinger are the same, 83s. I think Trout comes first because I take decimals off. I don't need to see all these decimals. But he's probably 83.6 and Bellinger's like 83.3. Or maybe, well, that would round up to 84. So, whatever. Trout and Bellinger, top dogs. So, just to summarize, and then I'll do a little slate breakdown here. Trout and Bellinger, when you consider everything that I'm looking at that they do against the handedness of the pitcher they're facing and what the pitcher they're facing does against their respective handedness, Trout righty, Bellinger lefty, you get the final rating. And if you want to zoom in more, there's all the different columns to see, what's what. Like, for example, you can see that Bellinger and Trout are both absolute studs, but Plutko is worse than Quantrill at minimizing home runs. But Quantrill gives up, I guess more line drives, more fly balls, harder contact. So perhaps Plutko has, been a little unlucky, maybe, and Quantrill has been a little lucky, and there's some regression there. Either way, you can't go wrong playing Trout and Bellinger. All right. So speaking of Trout and Bellinger, those two are always good one-offs. I advocate stacking as often as possible, if not always. And, I guess the one excuse could be if you want to do like a 4-3-1 on FanDuel or on DK, maybe like like a 5-2-1 fantasy draft, like a 6-1-1. So I'm looking at FanDuel salary, FanDuel positions, and on FanDuel, I'm a 4x4 guy, but once in a while, 4-3-1. So who will your one be? Let's look at some possible ones. Right off the bat, we're sorted by rating, and you could see that Trout and Bellinger are at the top. And then it's a pretty precipitous drop-off. Rhys Hoskins against Ross Detweiler. That's a good matchup for him. Max Muncy, JT Realmuto. And then it just starts trailing off. Now, it's worth saying that, 83%. Okay. Basically, what we're saying is that when you average this all together, this matchup, Trout and Bellinger are better in this matchup than 83% of other matchups. Like the possible, the possibility to make this matchup even better, it's not that big. This is outstanding for them. However, and yes, they're higher than a lot of these other guys, but that doesn't mean that these other guys don't have good matchups. If we drop down here to like Michael Conforto and Bo Bichette, they're 70th percentile rating. So they're better than 70% of other guys, and that's pretty damn good. So just keep that in mind. Worst ratings. AJ Pollock and Russell Martin against Quantrill. Pollock, 3,600. Definite fade right there, outside of a Dodgers stack. But you can see that these are just not good options. So let's look at positions. Start with second base. Second base, if we sort by rating, Max Muncy, outstanding matchup, 77% against Quantrill. Altuve, also outstanding matchup, lefty pitcher, Marco Gonzalez. Problem with this one is Gonzalez limits home runs, 32nd percentile, 40th percentile ISO, 36th percentile WOBA, 48% weighted hard. Altuve does everything well against lefties. I'm not saying don't use him, but tread lightly because Gonzalez, his weighted average against righties is pretty good, 49. Altuve 90 against lefties. So, will he get a couple hits? I think so. But will he dominate? I don't know. It's tough to say. So, John Scope, just 2,700, going against Danny Duffy. He is looking like he's in a pretty nice spot here. 94th percentile weighted hard against lefties. Danny Duffy, 78, weighted hard against righties. So I think Scope could have a couple hard hits. Jason Kipnis going against Felix Pena. That's a pretty solid matchup there. 3,100, not too bad of a price. 90th percentile weighted hard. 86% line. And Pena gives up some hard contact. So got a couple good second base options up there. And yeah, there's a lot. It's a big slate. Tons and tons of options to consider. So, narrowing it down to Max Muncy is probably pretty helpful. But I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to direct you to use Max Muncy. Moving over to shortstop. So the model definitely likes the Dodgers. Corey Seager going against Quantrill, 75. Segura against Detweiler, 74. Segura's got good splits against lefties. Definitely doesn't crush the ball. You can see the 35 and 42 hard in line. Hard in line, by the way. You notice I called it hardliner. That's clever, isn't it? Lindor, however, does hit the ball hard against the opposing pitcher, handedness. So the difference between Segura and Lindor is just the quality of contact. Segura is getting results, but Lindor is also with really quality contact. So Segura is not always going to be a can't miss play against lefties just because of that fact. However, he's going against Ross Detweiler, who is really bad against opposing righties. Only has 51 percentile total batters faced. But that doesn't mean that you want to stay away because Ross Detweiler's established himself in the league as someone that you can, in fact, target. So, yeah, doesn't strike anyone out, gives up a ton of power, and gives up really quality line drive contact. So I feel good about Segura, but I feel like Lindor is a bit safer. But Corey Seager, you're saving 300 versus Segura and 800 versus Lindor. So you might want to go with him. And then Bo Bichette, tiny sample size, but he's performed really well thus far. And he gets Dylan Bundy, who just gives up all the power, strikes out guys. So, he's definitely a volatile pitcher, but you can target him if the batter you are choosing has good contact, bat skills, which Bichette does. Moving over to third base. I forgot to sort all these by rating. Third base, number 1 is Devers. Rafael Devers going against Chad Green. Devers does everything right against righties, but the problem is that Chad Green minimizes power and strikes guys out. And, it's worth considering the quality of contact that he gives up. So he could regress negatively, and that's a good matchup for Devers. LeMahieu against Brian Johnson. On the other hand, you have Chad Green, who the results aren't there for opposing batters, but the quality of contact is. And then for Johnson, the results are there for opposing batters, but the quality of contact is low. So, you got to figure, like, what do you put more weight into? Is the type of contact that batters are making against or the type of contact the pitcher's allowing to the handedness of the batter he's facing, or the results? And I would probably put more weight with the quality of contact, maybe. That's how I'm feeling these days with quality of contact with the barrels and hard and stuff. But, the results are there. I mean, same thing with Detweiler going against Maikel Franco. Franco is not a very good batter against lefties. He's not terrible, but he's not great. Very low WOBA, middling ISO. But when he puts the bat on the ball, he can hit the ball out of the park, 71 home run rate. And a solid line score, doesn't strike out, and Detweiler doesn't strike anyone out. So Franco could be a nice cheap option at third base. And then on the other hand, you have Miguel Sano, who does strike out a lot. Danny Duffy, he's not terrible, but he doesn't strike out a ton of guys. And Sano might be able to avoid the strikeouts against Danny Duffy. Home run 96, ISO 94, WOBA 90, hard 91. The line score is definitely dropping because of that K rate. But if Sano makes contact tonight, odds are if it's not a home run, it's going to be a double. So going against Duffy, I like that matchup. And then Arenado against Bumgarner. We know what Arenado can do against opposing lefties, but Bumgarner, he's a different kind of lefty. He's a hell of a lefty. Gives up hard contact for sure, but the results aren't there for the opposing batters. But they're playing in Coors, so the results could be there tonight. Moving over to catcher first base. Got to sort it again. And these are all guys that are projected to start tonight. This column here is the order column of where they're projected to hit in the order. So Rhys Hoskins projected to hit third, and JT Realmuto projected to hit fifth. So you got two Philly guys right at the top there, 79 and 76. Detweiler again can't do anything right except for limiting hard contact, but that sample size for Detweiler is pretty small, so he could definitely see that number tick up. And other than Realmuto striking out a lot against lefties, Well, I wouldn't say striking out a lot, but he's 53 for K rate against lefties. But everything else for the two of these guys is really good. So that Philly stack seems like it could be a good one, which we'll get to in a minute. But so far, we've talked about Real Muto, Hoskins, Segura, Michael Franco. So keep the Phillies in mind. Jock Peterson going against Cal Quantrill, 76. Mitch Garver, 75 against Danny Duffy. Garver didn't play, unfortunately, yesterday. I was really looking forward to him playing yesterday, and he did not, going against Glenn Sparkman. Freddie Freeman, absolute stud, 100 percentile line score. The guy just is such an amazing line drive hitter that doesn't strike out. Does not hit the ball softly ever. Memory serves me correctly. I think his soft contact rate is like 8% or something. Going against Trevor Bauer. Trevor Bauer, new team. So, yes, he strikes guys out, but he gives up dingers, gives up power, gives up hard contact. So I think Freddie Freeman could be an extremely low-owned one-off. Would I recommend stacking the Braves against Bauer? I don't know, maybe in large field GPPs, if you can afford to throw that bullet out there. But I definitely like Freeman as a one-off. That's solid play, considering he'll be 3%, 4% owned. Brandon Dixon, you can see that weighted average here in column B, 82, 75, 80, 85, 90, 63. So this is a guy who sees a big jump because the opposing pitcher sucks. So Sampson is not good against righties. As a righty, 82% weighted average. So Brandon Dixon gets a jump there. The guy strikes out a lot, but Sampson doesn't strike anyone out. Dixon, 87th percentile home run rate, 76th percentile ISO, 80 percentile weighted hard, but the WOBA and the weighted line are low. And so you could see that Brandon Dixon, he is a home run hitter. That's what he looks to do. Probably you could say he's a 3 true outcomes guy. I don't know what his walk rate is. I'm not really interested in walk rate in this particular model as of now. But the model indicates that Dixon hits for power and strikes out a lot. And Sampson gives up power and doesn't strike anyone out. So 3,300, he's not extremely cheap, but, he's another guy that I think for reasons opposite of Freddie Freeman is a nice one-off. Freddie Freeman is a Hall of Famer, and Dixon is not by any stretch. And Trevor Bauer is an all-star, and Adrian Sampson is not at all. So there you go. Moving finally to outfield, and then we'll look at some stacks. So, as mentioned earlier, Trout and Bellinger lead the way, 48, 4,700, very expensive, but 83% rating. I mean, just outstanding MVP studs. You're probably looking right here at the two MVPs of their respective leagues. So, fire them up. Go ahead. Scott Kingery, another one of your Philly guys. Got to get your Philly stack in there. At this point, it's pretty apparent. Only thing Kingery does poorly against lefties is strikes out. Detweiler does not strike anyone out. Alex Verdugo does not strike out. Everything else is kind of meh. And Quantrill, gives up really hard contact. The results are not there yet for the opposing batters. So Verdugo's in a nice spot as part of a stack. Definitely not a one-off type of play. your one-off plays, you absolutely need to be targeting guys with elite power, and he is not that. Nelson Cruz, however, is, and he's facing Danny Duffy. Strikes out a ton against lefties, 41st percentile, but 97 home run ISO, 93 WOBA, 98 hard. Just a 63 weighted line, but again, that's probably because of the K rate. I don't know how many line drives the guy hits too, but those four boxes: home run, ISO, WOBA, hard, means he's an elite power hitter, and we already knew that about him, but this just defines him as such. And Duffy, gives up the hard contact, doesn't strike out a lot of guys, so it's a nice spot for Nelson. All right, let's move into stacks, and then I'm going to take my boy outside. So if we sort by weighted average of pitchers, what that allows us to do is isolate some spots that opposing batters can feed off of. And as we already knew, Adrian Sampson leads the way with the highest weighted average, 82 against opposing righties. But we're not thrilled about the Tigers. We're certainly not. But, Brandon Dixon, perhaps Jacoby Jones. Definitely more Dixon as a, mid-priced one-off.
I love you, Daddy.
I love you, Jacob. We're almost done here, okay?
Okay.
All right. Ross Detweiler. Ross Detweiler is definitely a target. We've already identified the Phillies' several options. So you could go with a Hoskins, Kingery, Realmuto, Segura. It's got good correlation there. Segura, Hoskins, 2-3, Kingery, Realmuto, 6-5. So the 2-3-5-6 stack. Definitely interested in that. If you need to save some money, you can definitely go with Franco. And then Roman Quinn, even more savings there. But he's better against righties. Definitely hits the ball, poorly, but some home runs have left the yard for him. So I'm not thrilled about Roman Quinn or Cesar Hernandez. Cesar Hernandez, we definitely like to use him more against righties. The only thing he does well against lefties is not strike out. So Hoskins, Kingery, Realmuto, Segura with Franco as a pay down option if you want to save a little bit there. But I feel like you definitely have to get Hoskins in there. And then Kingery, Realmuto, Segura, you can go with whoever else you feel like. Adam Plutko, definitely targetable. Gives up a lot of everything and doesn't strike guys out. But the options for the Angels, they're not that great other than Trout. Look at that. Trout, 94, and then Upton, Pujols, Smith, Fletcher, Simmons, 59 through 44. No, not that great. Dakota Hudson, he's targetable with opposing lefties. Matt Olson certainly is someone you could look at. But Grossman, Profar, Herman, nah, not that interested. Sorry. Grossman, though, definitely can hit some line drives there. Doesn't strike out at all. And has a 91% weighted line. So that's something to keep in mind. And Dakota Hudson has a really high weighted line. So Robbie Grossman at 2,400, projected to bat second. That's interesting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sign off here. But what I'll do is I'll tweet out the link to this sheet. I'll share it with everybody. And Jacob, you're ready to go outside.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and make this link. Anyone with the link can view. And then I will copy it and go to the old tweeters. All right, check out the sheet today. I called this one Hardliner because it incorporates hard contact, fly balls, line drives, high contact rates, etc., along with other familiar metrics. And then I will add be sure to open a temporary filter view to be able to sort and filter columns. Also, watch the recent Periscope stream if you need help understanding the sheet. Enjoy. All right, sweet. All right, everybody. So that's going to be it. I'm going to take my kiddo outside and have a little papa time, daddy time. But yeah, all the best of luck to you. And hit me up with any questions if you have any. See you.